I'm going to pick up some slate gray and some sand gray. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to chisel in a few skinny birch that are kind of background trees that we kind of see and don't see. I'll go throughout, put in a couple of them. Some can cross each other. That looks not too shabby. All right, so those are our background. Now I'm going to use my 1/4 lunar blender or my 3/8, depending on the size of the tree. So we're going to go with this larger tree here, and I'm going to start with sand gray, and I'm using my 3/8. I'm going to kind of put a wet coat of sand gray on my tree. So the part of our tree that's facing where we want that sun to come in is going to be lighter. So for these trees on the right-hand side of our picture, we're going to put the dark, which is slate gray. I just pick it up on the dirty brush, blending it in. My sand gray dries up pretty fast, so down that back side of our tree is going to have the gray blended in. Just streaks in, and then on this side, the front side, we pick up our white and streak and blend that in. If it's sort of scratchy and patchy and uneven, that's okay. This is birch, and see how I can just pat and scratch. It's a tree, it's bark. And we just want to have lighter to the one side and the darker to the back side. So if I'm getting too much light over there, I can just pick up a bit more of the gray and patch my way back across. Okay, so that's our goal. We're going to continue this with these trees. Once we get over onto this side, our white's going to go to this side of the tree because that light is coming down the middle. Okay? All right, so that's our mission. So again, I'll go for this tree. Put my wet coat on. I should have done the tree underneath it first, because there's one kind of creeping underneath. So we're going to put this on. Gray to the back side. So I'm just picking it up on my dirty brush. And we're not concerned that it isn't even, right? Remember, patchy, it's bark. Pick up my white. And I want to scratch it in. Okay, so that's the character of the tree is going to show up when we add all of our dark parts onto it. So right now, it's light to the front. If it is going to die down, and if you feel like you want a bit more light on it, we can come back after and just put a little too much over there, scratch a bit more on. But once we put our dark marks on, we'll know if we want to add more. So I'm going to do that, and on this side we work our way back with the light towards the middle again. Okay, so same thing, all of our trees. Once we have all our trees done, I'm going to take warm white, and I'm just going to come in and scratch from the white section. So on these trees, it's going to come from that side, give it a scrunch, and then on these trees, it's going to come from this side. So we're just giving a scratch, now some across the middle, but mostly coming from the edge. So we're just giving some brighter scratches. It's going to just highlight the tree all the way up. Okay, I'm using my 3/8 Lunar Blender, which is giving me a fair width of scratchy white. I do scrunch my brush on the palette, give it a twist, and come in like this. Okay, so like so, all the way up the trees. And again on this side. All right, so this is going to give us our little extra highlight on the trees. Using the black brown on a liner, I'm going to add some markings on the trees and some branches. Some of them are going to have a branch that comes out from it and just kind of leans downwards. Other branches are going to come from the tree. This one's going to come from behind the tree and has a branch just coming off like so. Now, we don't necessarily have to transfer all of these branches on when we're doing this. We can just leave ourselves, add them. It's up to you. We're gonna have some markings come across our tree to create, this is the famous birch look. So we will be adding these markings. Some of them have some fair size knots, some will come around the tree from this side, some will just be there. So you don't want to get too crazy with them. You want to have them that you have to put 1,000,000 of them on. And then down near the bottom, we're going to have some heavy duty markings that are going to end up coming up the tree from the bottom. And it just comes down with this black-brown mix. So the bottom of the tree has this that's quite filled in. And I'm working out of the camera range again, aren't I? There we go. So I'm just filling that in, creating that dark. And I can bring in some of the gray in it. Get a little bit of that into the black as well, so that it's not just solid. We are going to have grass coming up along the bottoms. So we'll thin our liner, continue on, and add these little markings throughout. Like I say, we're not looking to do a million of them. Sometimes the side of the tree might have a few fair, oops, water on the brush, a few fair sized knots. Branch might have been there. So like I say, this is what we're going to do to all of our trees. We'll add in branches. There are going to be some leaves here and there on them, but nothing like, see how on the bottom down there we have it a little gray, a little black. It kind of looks a little more natural. And then as we're going up, we've got these marks. Okay, so that's what we're going to do to all of our trees. You can kind of mimic what's in your picture or go for your own creation. Really isn't going to make a big deal. See, I can just pull in and make it a little bit of a bigger knot area. Just kind of scribbling with the brush. You don't want them to be too perfect. Okay, and it's kind of fun. We'll come back with a few white ones after too with our liner. Works out really pretty. We're going to add, I'm going to change the way we're doing the bases on the trees. It works out a lot quicker. Just fooling around with my lunar blender and the black brown. And then I'll just come up a little bit and add a few around there. Now I'm also going to use that to kind of come in here and there and add some knots, just to get some uneven bumps throughout. See those little knots that appear? Works nice to be uneven. That makes it look a little more natural, realistic. So we'll go through, once we've got all our little lines on that we've done, we're going to add these knots in a few places. All right. So, and then again, it works out a lot better to put the base in with that. Gets it nice and kind of uneven barky. I really like the way that that's letting me add a more natural look to the base of our birch tree. Okay, so that's what we're going to go ahead and do those with. And we're going to pull in the rest of our little branches and we're ready for some shading and leaves. So what we're going to do, I'm going to take nice and soft, thin down, add some water to your black brown. I've picked up it with my 3/8 or a number 10 and nice and softly float down the gray side to our trees. So that's the gray side of our trees. It's going to help round them and it's going to help separate them and set the trees behind each other. So nice and soft, really blend it out well. We're not looking for bold color. We just want a nice washy float. Very soft. Even those little guys in the background there. So I'm going to take, again, nice and soft. Don't want to have it bold. A nice soft. Oh, I've got paint all over my hand. That would have been a sweet one. All the way down beside our trees. So you see the difference that's made already on them. It's rounding our trees tremendously. On this side here, it's on the left side, because these trees have the light coming out the middle. So I'll continue with these, but it's dramatic difference. We're going to come through our trees and just bring in, I talked about this before, how we're going to bring in a few white lines that are going to add white highlights. And we had those scratchy marks in there, but they died down. Even though they looked really bright at the time, they died down. So we just want to come through and add a few lines in the warm white, just a couple here and there. And they're going to create basically stronger highlights. Okay, so that's our mission, to come through and do a little of that. There's not going to be a ton, but enough that it's going to create a bit more depth. Now we're going to add some foliage that is going to be coming from some branches. Say we've got this branch coming from here. We want this foliage, so I'm taking plantation and I'm taking black green. They will be our base or our background. Stronger leaves. But we don't want them to be coming always from the same direction. Now I'm picking up a little of my lush green on the dirty brush as well. And I'm putting a few up here. I want to put a base in behind them. So that's plantation, black green, and now it's black green. Pardon me, now it's plantation and lush. And I'm just dabbing that with my zero round. These are leaves that are basically hanging down. And now I'm going to pick up a little bit of my celery shoot. So that's going to give me, and it's on the dirty brush with my lush green, so it's going to give me, do you see how it's going to pick up that bright light that's coming from the back, from here? It's going to highlight these leaves. So you see some of that stuff we've put on our tree we're not even going to see, but that's all right. You never know where you're going to be dabbing some leaves or where you're going to be, putting anything coming. So I might want a couple coming from here. So I'm back to my black, green, and plantation. And I'll have some, they're hanging down off of branches at the tops of these trees. So that's why they're draping down in front of all this. So we just go through both colors, black, green, putting in my background base, coming in like that. Now I pick up my lush, dirty brush, so it's lush and plantation. And these are getting further away from our light. So when I pick up my celery shoot on that, we're not going to have too much of that light getting picked up, not as much as we've got over here. Up here we have more of that light green being reflected off of those trees. And I'm going to have foliage on this piece that I brought in here as well. So we'll go through and we're going to add these now. Remember we brought those trees in the background that we kind of just streaked up that came from the background. I've got a little of the celery shoot and lush on my brush. That's perfect color to come in here with. and tap in around there. So those are getting a little of those brighter colors because they're, for one, they're babyer trees, but we want to catch a little of that light that's getting reflected on those leaves. So we come in and we just tap through in there. So the same thing over here. I would put some of that and the lush. We know that that's over here as well. These are in behind these other trees, so we're just bringing those in. A little of the lush. I just don't want to make it look like I'm tapping a stripe in between these. So a little more celery shoot. We just want to bring in, and I'll put some back in here too. And some lush throughout. So we're just tap those through and bring them in. Our daisies are going to be done not so, how do I say it? I don't want them to look perfect. We want them to look more almost as if they're dabbed, exactly what we're going to do. So I'm using my 1/8 filbert, and I'm going to come in and just set the side petals in for a daisy. So there, a couple of them will be right in amongst each other. I'll load again. I'm using my brush on its side, setting them down. We'll have some that can be bigger, closer to us, say down here. And I'd like to have some clusters. We will, of course, have a few that just kind of are random, off by themselves. And then ones that are built in each other in a clump. Then we'll come back with some antique gold and just dot in the centers. So I'm taking a 0 round, I'm picking up Twilight and Perfect Perry. And I'm just going to come in here and loosely dab. So if I want a couple that are spike looking, I just loosely dab, going upwards with them. And then I'm going to be adding some just gently around the ground. So some that are just lying in around, and I'll put a couple up in here. So we're looking for just a tint of color that's going to add something to it. So you can go as crazy as you like. You can have more of the dark. You can have more of the Perfect Perry. That Twilight is such a pretty color that it just adds a nice tone to the purples. All right, so that's adding our final ones. And I just have to pull in my grasses, put the centers in the rest of these daisies, and shade around my outer edges when we're done. So we shade around the outer edges with black green nicely to walk your shadow in.